With a movie called The Locksmith, I was expecting this to be some quite cheesy movie that would delve way too far into the intricacies of picking locks. Nope, this ended up being something different entirely. Very quickly, if you enjoy the cut of my jib, consider hitting subscribe. Just keeps you up to date with the latest movies I'm covering to add to your watch list, and you're going to make my day. But that being said, let's get on with this one. The Locksmith. So The Locksmith opens up on a job gone wrong. We're following our main character, Miller, and he's brought along his friend to help him on this one. But it turns out that the man that set the job up is not only in the police, but is also turned on him, kills his partner, and then Miller is sent away for 10 years. 10 years later, he is out of prison, and this is where the movie just really gets into motion. The first thing I really did enjoy about this is the fact that, see, when he's out of jail and on parole, he is trying to stay clean. It's not one of those cliches that he's out of prison and all he's thought about for 10 years is how to get revenge, and this is his opportunity to do it. Instead, he's got set up with an old friend to get an actual job, and is just trying to make a new life for himself. Miller has a child, and that is his main focus. It's not revenge, it's setting himself up so that he can start getting custody and start seeing his daughter a lot more. Now, whilst that sounds very simplistic, this film has a lot of moving parts. As I said, it leans a lot into crime more than anything else. You know, there's certainly some action and very thrilling parts to this movie, but the crime stands out above all of them. So like the sergeant that set him up at the start of the movie ends up being promoted. 10 years later, he is now due for retirement. Now that he's retired and giving the job to Miller's ex-partner means that not only can his old associates keep tabs on her, but things can happen in the line of duty by accident. And by that, I of course mean not an accident at all, and it is a clear threat. But you get what I mean. So to set the stage and make you understand kind of who all these parties are, how they link with each other, and the kind of level of their relationships, the movie takes a nice little chunk out at the start to set all that up for you. It doesn't slow down at all. It's actually paced really well for what they're doing, but it does take a moment just to set all this in motion. And what I did quite enjoy as well is that Miller does have a nice relationship with his ex-partner. You know, she gets what he'd done, she gets his old life, but she can see beyond anything else that he is trying to do well. He is trying to do better for their daughter. Even though she's in the police and doesn't necessarily agree with what he does, she can understand that his craft of being like a master locksmith is something that is still quite impressive, even if it is entirely illegal and she shouldn't condone it. She's impressed nonetheless. The issues really start coming in when the friend that he brought along at the start of the movie that got killed in the setup, one of his connections comes to Miller and just wants him to do one more job and get back into the life. And this is where we see an actual conflict within him, because he does not want to get back to that life. In a lot of other movies, people would just jump at the first chance for all of the money, but what you have here is that he's clearly feeling the guilt and being guilted into it, to be fair, for the fact that his friend had died, and so that doing this job would kind of make amends for that. Not really, but that's what this person is going for. His friend that set him up is Ving, who is great in this movie. He is just such a loving force here and just wants him to do well. You know, he's like a tough love sort of friend. One that I really did enjoy anytime he popped up on screen. But he's working away as a handyman, so the fact that he used to be a locksmith, his parole officer is already very tight on him because he could easily switch into his old ways. So he's got to be very particular when he takes this job to make sure that he's not caught and he gets out clean. Kind of spoilers here, he does the job and he gets out. But what this ends up doing is that his ex-partner in the police starts looking into the case a little bit more. Miller finds out a few things, passes that information along, and this is where the crime really drives up. His ex-partner starts seeing really suspicious things in all the report. You know, there's various girls that might live at the same address, or that certain aspects of the document just look like they've been faked just to get a report pushed through. So while she's digging into this, the old sergeant's buddies are keeping a close eye on her, and Miller at the same time, and Miller's keeping a close eye on the associates. Like I said, it is a lot of moving things going on in this movie. But as much as it sounds like it might be very confusing with all of these moving parts, it really isn't. The movie's thrown a lot of names at you, but trust me when I say the movie's not leaving you behind as an audience member. It's taking you along with it, and it's just making sure that you're enjoying every second of it. See, from the action to the various conflicts and motivations, it did all still feel very grounded. And of course I'm not going to spoil it here, but the movie does wrap things up very nicely. It's not done in a very neat bow, but there are of course twists and reveals that come up throughout this movie as it's going, so that adds to the pacing being very good here. So look, with all that being said, where would I be putting The Locksmith? It's definitely your crime thriller action movie, but it does at times feel a little bit like it's like a made-for-TV. You know, like all the cop shows you get, all the ones that are just abbreviations. It feels like it's a longer episode of one of those whenever it cuts back to his ex-partner and she's digging into the police side of things. The performances were actually all alright. No one done anything necessarily bad in here, but thinking back, no one really jumped out at me or stood out as like an actor that I want to see more from. See if you've got the time, you could put on The Locksmith if you're looking for this sort of movie. Miller as well was a very likeable lead character. You can understand his conflict, you can also appreciate the craft that he's got as being this master locksmith, and the fact that he wants to do all of this by right of his daughter, and even his ex-partner. Even though she is now in the police and been promoted, he's still keeping her in the loop with what he's up to, so she's not strictly corrupt. However, she does know more than she probably should. With all that now said, what did you think of The Locksmith? Do we agree or disagree? Please do let me know. And if you haven't yet, consider hitting subscribe. Keeps you up to date with all these movies I'm watching, and trust me, you're going to make my day. But with all that now covered, as always, thank you so much for watching.